All right, welcome to the first week of May. We have May 5th, Cinco de Mayo upon us. It's a critical day for all of us, but it's also World Password Day, and we should probably choose better passwords. They are the first line of defense against people logging in as us and our personal information. So let's talk about that instead. Welcome back. My name is Chris Burns from Techie Gurus. Let's talk about your password. It probably sucks. If one of them doesn't, something else does. You've probably used your child's name or birthday. Well, 31% of you have. 34% of you have probably used your significant other's name or birthday in your password. 37% have probably used your employer's name. And 44% of you have reused passwords across personal and work accounts. Yeah, that's not good. So enough of the stats. Let's talk about the importance of passwords in every aspect of our life. See, it is our first line of defense against somebody logging in as us. Yes, there are other ways to protect that, but beyond that, a password is critical. And May 5th is World Password Day. So let's cover the 7 steps to hack your way to a better password in both your business and personal life. You know, one of the most annoying things about passwords is this whole idea that complexity is king and changing passwords every 90 days is critically important and all the crap that comes along with that, the stuff that nobody can use to actually remember a password. Now, I use some of that because I use a password manager that I generate random passwords, at least 16 characters in length, so that, you know, just in case they're ever trying to be brute force, the chances of that happening are pretty much zero. But it's the world we live in today. But it doesn't have to be. See, in 2017, NIST, or the National Institute of Standards and Technologies, actually changed their password recommendations. The thing is, companies are slow to change. They're slow to change their requirements. You see this a lot with HR or banks or whatnot, where they make you change your password all the time. The reality is NIST doesn't even recommend that you change passwords anymore, unless it's been a compromised password. Let's go over the 7 ways to hack your way to a better password and better password policy inside your business. So let's start with number 1. Let's just debunk the whole idea that password complexity is a thing. See, password 123 exclamation mark technically is a complex password. Do you really think that's a complex password? If you do, take a shot of tequila or something. It's not. So the idea that we need to use complexity is kind of old news. We should be focused on making passwords longer, not necessarily more complex, because length is the key here. Using passphrases is a key here. You can make a sentence out of it. Something that's easy for you to remember that you can type in. Now, number 2, don't enforce regular password resets. See, again, if a password is long enough, let's say you've made a passphrase that's 15 or 16 characters, that's incredibly hard to crack. So if you make a passphrase like that, you don't have to reset it all the time. The only time you have to reset it is if it's compromised. It's okay. Number 3, we need to have the ability to block passwords against commonly using compromised passwords. See, there's these huge password lists out there that are consisted of compromised passwords over the last let's just say few years. And these word lists make it incredibly easy to crack passwords. So instead of brute forcing, they'll just apply an entire word list against your password, and there's a good chance they can grab it. So we need to block that from happening. So there's a few ways to do it. If you have Active Directory or something like that, or if Microsoft has a way to do it inside of Microsoft 365, where we can block passwords against known bad password lists and go from there. Number 4, allow the pasting of passwords. Password managers need to be able to paste passwords into fields. We love password managers. I love password managers. We should all be using password managers. This helps us avoid the biggest problem of them all, and that's password reuse. We shouldn't reuse passwords. So by not reusing passwords, we can generate passwords inside of a password manager. we can make our password to get access to our password manager a nice, long, complex passphrase. Oh, I said complex. Just a long passphrase that you could use to protect that, and then use random passwords inside of that at a minimum number of characters, such as 10 or 11 or 12 or longer, but never more than 64, which if you're using a 64-word password, you might not want to do that. That's just a lot of typing, and carpal tunnel is a thing, so let's stop doing that. Number 5, let's enable show the password while typing, because as we get to a point of telling people to actually use longer passwords, it's important to understand that they need to be able to see that password. Now, this is not possible in all situations. You're not going to be able to always see your password. I know a lot of web forms allow that. Unless somebody's standing over your shoulder looking, they're not going to be able to tell. And it's going to make it a lot easier to type, because if you make a mistake, you never know where you make the mistake. So if you have 16, 18, 20 character password, look, you're going to make a mistake every once in a while. And if you can see it, you can make a change to it really quickly. If you can't see it, well, you know what? You're going to have to go back and retype it in. So we need to normalize being able to see the password while we're typing it. And then make sure to inform people that don't do this in a public square where somebody can, look over your shoulder. Number 6, limit the number of failed password attempts before an account lockout. So brute force is used a lot to guess passwords or store password lists. So we need to be able to say, hey, put limits in place that if there's a number of failed login attempts, let's say 3 to 5, we're going to stop a lot of brute force attacks, because it's going to make it a lot harder, especially because normally you're going to put a timeout period inside of that. So let's say they do 3 to 5 bad passwords, and then there's a timeout of 15 minutes to 30 minutes. Well, to run through a bunch of passwords, that's going to take a long time, and that's going to deter a lot of attempts. But again, we need to go back to longer passwords where brute force becomes a non-issue. If you're at 12 or 15 characters or longer, brute force is very difficult. Number 7, again, I've harped on this a lot. Implement two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication, whatever you want to call it. Make sure it's on. Make sure it's on all the accounts you can possibly make it on. This is basically your way to say, hey, look, if my password gets exposed for whatever reason, maybe I had a really good password, but the website I used had bad password security, and they didn't, salt my passwords, which is, we'll just leave it at that, encrypt my password. If they didn't do that and somebody did get my password, they'd still be able to log in as me. But if you have two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication turned on, guess what? They wouldn't be able to get in, or they shouldn't be able to get in. If they get past that, there's some other vulnerability or something that's affecting that site that would cause that. So it also protects you against phishing attacks. So if you accidentally click on a phishing email and you put your credentials in, they would still need that multi-factor part to get in. Now, there are some ways around that, but we'll just leave that at that. So that's 7 ways you can hack your business to better passwords. So let's talk about the future and talk about what the actual utopia of passwords really is. So the utopia I'm talking about is passwordless authentication, but you're going to have to tune in later for that one, where I'll go into a little bit deeper dive. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this gives you a framework. Now, I broke down the NIST framework. It's 79 pages or something like that. I broke it down into 7 topics. There's a couple more, but these are the ones that are really specific to business and personal. So you can use those to make better decisions, to make better password frameworks for your business. If you need help with that, you can reach out to us. You can go to techiegurus.com, fill out a form. We'll contact you. You can comment. If you want to DM us, go ahead, DM us. We're here to help. But we hope you enjoy World Password Day. We hope if you drink, take a shot of tequila. If you don't, I'm with you. But use this as a framework to protect yourself, to protect your business. And until next time, stay cyber safe.